All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's we don't normally record in the morning, but it is the morning for me. I'm about halfway through a cup of coffee. I don't know when you're listening, but maybe it's morning for you too. This will be episode 147 of the You, Me, and BTC podcast. We have a very special repeat guest who we haven't had for a very long time. I'm here with Mr. Paul Puey, the CEO, is that the right title, of Airbitz?
Yeah, CEO, co-founder of Airbitz.
Okay, perfect. So, I mean, it's been a long time. We've had tons of new listeners who may or may not have listened way back then. So we will just start there and have you tell us what Airbitz is. Got
it. So for any of you that have listened from the first episode, Airbitz, at least when I was on the show before, was primarily a Bitcoin wallet, a mobile wallet on iOS and Android with the focus on being very familiar to the average user. We tried to avoid and hide a lot of the crypto complexities, especially the security part of Bitcoin. So securing private keys for Bitcoin we thought was significantly challenging. It required you to write down 12 or 24 words. In some wallets, it requires you to save a PDF file and know a password that you absolutely cannot forget, very unforgiving. And so crypto is what I call, there's three things about crypto until we came around. It was intimidating, unfamiliar, and unforgiving. And the three of those really make for not so good mass adoption. And so we created a wallet that was really trying to address that, where you feel like you're just logging into a website and you have PIN-based login, standard username, password, but underneath that was actual real encryption going on for private keys where only the user could access the keys. We also would synchronize the data. We would revision control the data, make it feel like you can access the account from multiple devices. And we build in what we call one-touch, two-factor. We didn't have that at the time I was on the show last. And we also have password recovery, our kind of 2.0 version of which is pretty seamless and easy for a person to use. So you combine all of that. We take the human element into consideration when designing the product so that you're not just protecting yourself from attackers, but you're also kind of protecting yourself from yourself, right? Because a person can be one of the biggest reasons why people lose Bitcoin, and we're trying to factor that in as well. And so that's what most people know of as Airbitz, but we're kind of making this transition now and offering our platform for other applications.
Right. Yeah, I know. That's been one of the biggest things that people talk about in Bitcoin for years, is just that because it's so new and so technical, it hasn't been the most usable thing for a lot of people. It's, confusing, or you could lose your Bitcoin easily or send it, and all kinds of stuff could happen. And yeah, I like your idea of just a simple log on, but just as secure as Bitcoiners want. I mean, you don't have access to their Bitcoin or their credentials or anything, and neither do people that hack you. So that
exactly.
I love all of that. So yeah, tell us more about this transition. One of the reasons I reached out to you again is because I saw the Wefunder, and you're talking about an SDK and white labeling and your whole decentralized security model, edge security and stuff. So yeah, tell us more about that and what's all going down.
Yeah, so we're finding is that our wallet provided that type of a security model, what we call edge security. And the concept of edge security is secure the data at the edges of the network on individual users' devices before you put it onto a server. Don't rely on a server to put your data into and trust the people running that server, trust the network connections, and trust the companies behind it. Because for the most part, that gets compromised, and we hear about those compromised over and over and over again, right? Some of the biggest companies with the most resources still get hacked. And so we think that there's a fundamental shift to a new type of security model, which Bitcoin and blockchain are actually motivating. They're motivating this shift, and we're building tools, not just us, but other companies are building tools to be able to secure data at the edges of the network. And so we're taking the same code base and same security model that we built Airbitz on, and now providing it to other applications. And of course, the first wave of applications that really cares about this are blockchain apps, because they have private keys that no one should be able to access other than that end user. So we've made an SDK, a software development kit, that allows a developer to put Airbitz into their app and get the same user experience as logging into Airbitz, the mobile wallet, where they can just create an account with a username and password, log in with a PIN, or on mobile Touch ID, Android fingerprint coming soon,
All right,
and be able to
nice.
recover the account too. And be able to recover the account too if they set up, password recovery questions. So all of that really getting folded into a really easy to use platform that you can stick into your blockchain application, like especially if it's a web-based application. We have a JavaScript library that's like 4 or 5 lines of code, and you've got the entire interface ready to go. And so we're happy to announce that, we announced a couple of months ago that we were working with Augur, the prediction market, to incorporate Airbitz into their application. And it is live, even though they're still in testnet. The integration is live, and people can go to app.augur.net and see the login with Airbitz button and actually create an account in the conventional way. And so that's deployed. And then we're excited as well about showing people a whole nother level of ease of use, which is what we call our edge login or single sign-on for blockchain applications. And that's rolling and available now as well.
That sounds like a bunch of awesome stuff. Yeah, the Augur integration is something that kind of got me excited. I haven't made the time to actually participate in Augur at all yet or do too much research, but I've heard nothing but good things, and I'm excited that that you're able to work with them and stuff. So that's great.
They are definitely a great project. They're one of the projects that excited me the most in kind of the Ethereum blockchain space early on when they first gave a presentation in San Francisco almost like a year and a half, 2 years ago at this point. I was like, wow, this is pretty fascinating. It's a tough problem to solve. We've got some really tricky game theory mechanics that they have to solve. But if they're able to do it, wow, how powerful is that to be able to enable a global prediction market that's accessible by anybody with a simple laptop or smartphone. That we think is pretty powerful. So hence the reason why we're very excited about the partnership with them. And we have actually several more lined up that we haven't announced yet that we're still kind of finalizing. We just announced today a partnership with Wings, which is a DAO platform.
Yeah, I remember reading about that. Tell me more.
Yeah, so Wings is a platform to create and manage and participate in DAOs. And it's a multi-blockchain project, so it's going to actually be operating on both Bitcoin and some other blockchains as well. So we're excited about that because there's clearly excitement for the model of DAOs. There clearly is, and obviously everyone thinks of the DAO and the back and the money lost. But if you take a step back, like don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You take a step back. Like clearly people see the value in this model. Now we just have to do it right. And so I think you've got a team with Wings that is taking their time, making sure to deploy this correctly, and has a keen focus on UX too. They actually have a very, very keen focus on user experience for this. And so I think that's why there was excitement both ways between our companies to work together. And once we have more than one application on our platform, that's when the edge login starts really becoming interesting, where people that have an Airbitz wallet on their phone can literally scan a barcode in Augur and in the future scan a barcode in Wings and effectively log in to the app.
Oh, wow.
Which, it's quote login, but really it's not a login. Those apps don't have servers. What it's actually doing is it's creating an encrypted bucket for data and passing that bucket over to the app to put things like private keys into it. But that bucket is automatically encrypted, it's automatically backed up, and it's a sub account inside of the user's Airbitz account. And so being able to do the single sign-on across blockchain apps, we think is actually a fundamental ease of use case that will help drive adoption. And it also creates a very interesting data model because we've architected it such that these different apps can actually share data between themselves. So imagine two Ethereum-based blockchain apps sharing a bucket of keys that are both Ethereum, they both spend the same money, and it's all only by the permission of the user. So the user, kind of like when you single sign on to Google, right? Or Facebook, they ask you, hey, would you like to give access to your contact list or this or that? Same thing. You'd give access to the application to one of your wallets, and then now these wallets can actually be shared between different apps.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, because I love single sign-on. It is way easier to just say, yep, click a Google button or the Facebook button and be signed on. But it's nice to have it 100 times more secure, too. So
exactly. Secure and private, too. So when you use Google login, Facebook login, you're giving information about your Facebook and Google account to the app developers, not just the application client side, but to the actual company that runs that website or runs that application and the people there. And on the flip side, when you do that single sign-on, you're also giving information about your account on that app with Google and Facebook. So data that's not necessarily needed is getting shared between the two companies, with Airbitz's Edge login, nothing gets transmitted between Airbitz and the user or Airbitz and the application. It's all encrypted end to end. And so it's encrypted bucket sharing, I guess is the best kind of layman's way to describe it. These encrypted buckets of data, and they're getting shared between these apps. No one sees them but the client-side app and the user.
That's awesome. That's great. So speaking of these partnerships with Wings and Augur, I think the other one I heard about was Arcade City. Is that something we can talk about?
So Arcade City is going through a couple revs of their application. So the V1, which didn't really get deployed, did incorporate Airbitz, and the V2 hasn't broken ground with an Airbitz integration, and we're still talking to them. It's a different group of developers, and so we're hoping to get the integration in there as well. But the app is a significantly different and not yet widely deployed app yet. Although they did just have their token sale yesterday, and they had actually they're arranging their organization such that there are 7 key holders, and it's, I think, a 5 out of 7 to sign transactions, and 3 of those 7 are non-Arcade City people. Like, they wanted people from the community.
Interesting.
And so Chris himself actually does not have a key. So they had chosen 3, and so far they've chosen one person who was prior with the Ethereum Foundation, and then I was chosen actually as a second. So I'm one of the key holders for Arcade City. Happy to support the project. I do believe very strongly in the project, with or without Airbitz. And so I'm excited to see that push forward because it's a compelling use case.
Okay, cool.
That's one that we're excited to partner with. We actually have some unannounced outside of them as well that we're heavily working on. So you should see some news from us in the coming weeks and months of other decentralized, dApps, blockchain apps, private secure apps that are going to be using Airbitz for the security and account management.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait to see where it goes and what comes out, which actually kind of brings me back to the Wefunder, because I'm assuming that some of these partnerships are going to play a part in that kind of investment and stuff. So, and that is when I saw the Wefunder, one of the first questions I had, which I think is a normal question for investments, is how are you going to make money? So can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So we aim to make money by licensing out the SDK. As simple as that. So depending on the project and how that project monetizes, we can either take revenue share or charge like a SaaS model, active account per user, per login. We realize that the blockchain space is a very unique space and monetizes in very unique ways. And so we're pretty open. But we do have that kind of licensing model, and we're toying with some other ideas, such as being able to monetize in our own app because they log in with Airbitz inside of the app. Once we support things like multi-currency inside of our app, then the currency that's inside of the blockchain app that you're single signing into, that currency just shows up inside of Airbitz. And then we can monetize people through like exchange services between all the currencies, such as, like a Shapeshift type of integration, or the buy and sell plugin integration, which we already have, with at least Cloudera here in the US. And we aim to have more of those partnerships as well. So we aim to be kind of this interface into these blockchain apps, right? This is how you log in. This is how you secure the accounts, giving people the single sign-on experience, driving more people to our application because there's a value in just the key management security. But once they're there, if their currency just kind of shows up, well, then heck, we can drive monetization of that currency through, once again, buy, sell, or exchanging between the different currencies. That on top of the potential SaaS model where the developers pay for it. And we also have some projects that are actually very commercial-like projects that utilize the blockchain, where they may be closed source, they may be for financial services, that then would definitely pay. If you're not an open source project, then definitely would pay heavily for our platform.
Okay.
So we have a good number of monetization opportunities, everything from once again the SaaS model for blockchain apps, enterprise licensing, monetization in app, and then I think you touched on it earlier. We have some partners that are effectively just reusing our full tech stack, including the user interface, and that's like a white labeling monetization model as well. All
right, sweet. Well, I definitely hope it all works out, and it sounds interesting because I mean, full disclosure, I participated, so I hope it goes well.
Thank you so much. Super appreciate it, Daniel.
Oh yeah, sure thing. Well, hey, where can people find it if they want to learn more about it?
So airbitz.co, airbitz.co is our website, and from there, if you're interested in participating in the equity funding, equity crowdfunding, there's links pretty much close to the top of the page, links to Wefunder, and links to Bank to the Future. We're also doing a campaign with them as well. And so Wefunder supports non-accredited investors, which is actually what we're so excited about. Why we're so excited about doing this campaign is that for decades, regular people like you, me, and BTC, right, have not been able to participate in funding private companies. It just was, we were just downright locked out. And so the Title III Jobs Act lets companies raise, with some limitations, funding from the average person with some limits. But that democratizes access to this financial resource that we call investing, right? And that's perfectly in line with what Bitcoin's trying to do. It's trying to democratize access to a financial resource, money. And so the two go hand in hand, and we were excited to be able to deploy a campaign with Wefunder with the first ever Bitcoin integration. So the Jobs Act and Title III, that's been going on for a few months, and it has never allowed people to invest in Bitcoin. And what makes that nice is maybe not for the average American because they can do a cheap bank transfer, but for someone coming from overseas, even China, Hong Kong, Australia, they would have to do a wire transfer to invest. That was really the only option. And that could cost easily $40 for, as low as $100 investment with some companies.
Right.
And that's a significant chunk of your investment, making it effectively kind of non-interesting. And so with Bitcoin, there's a 1% transaction fee. Maybe you paid 0.5% or 1% to acquire the coin from an exchange. And you're looking at 2%. So $2 out of $100 investment is much more reasonable. Feasible. And so we worked pretty hard to get this integration. We worked closely with BitPay, with Wefunder, and we actually even introduced Wefunder to the bank that is backing their integration. And so
this
is what it took us months to get this together. We even delayed our crowdfunding to be able to launch with this because it meant so much to us. And we're happy to do it. So people just visit airbitz.co and you'll see the links for our campaign. And definitely if you have any questions, there's a forum on the campaigns and you can ask questions there about, everything about our company. We'd be happy to answer, and hopefully you're inclined to invest. Nice.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I was encouraged to go ahead and go through with the investment was just because I've seen you, reaching out to Augur, reaching out to Arcade City, reaching out to Wefunder and making these connections. I know you're in the community. I know everyone loves you. I'm sure not everyone. I don't know, but
yeah, I'm sure we have competitors that could care less, but we have enough fans. I say we have fans that definitely like what we're up to.
Do you still do the directory in the wallet, the places to spend it?
Yeah. So in mobile, the directory is still there. Admittedly, it's not a key focus of ours at this point. I think we've come to the realization that as the entire ecosystem has, that, merchant adoption and people walking into a cafe and spending Bitcoin isn't going to be its kind of first and critical use case. But we have it there. It's being kind of what I call just maintained as opposed to really it being advanced. And it's still in the mobile app, but on our website, it's very hidden. It's like, we have so much content to kind of show and describe to people on the website that the directory is a little bit buried. But if you have a link to one of the directory listings, it's still live. Like you can click on a link and that directory listing shows up. Just the interface is just a little bit more buried to find the directory in there. But in the mobile app, it is still there. So you just swipe to the right and then, there you have it. Go look for places to spend your Bitcoin.
Nice.
It's actually primarily used. So one of the things that has grown in the brick and mortar space that our directory is used more for is actually finding ATMs. Where people buy and sell Bitcoin and whatnot. And some of our white label partners are actually ATM operators. And so they utilize the directory as their ATM listing directory. So you can find their ATM specifically. Okay. I think it's actually a very good use case, and they like that seamless integration.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Got to find an ATM. They'll pull up the directory. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, hey, I think we're almost ready to wrap up, but I will do our, I guess, 2 final questions that we generally do for all of our guests. I'm assuming we did them for you too. I probably should have warned you about the first one so you could have thought about it, but that's okay. The first one is a personal story from the Bitcoin space. It can be pretty much anything goes, anything fun, anything terrible, anything funny, someone you met, something you did, something someone else did. Anything goes here, just an interesting personal story that happened to you or that you saw in the Bitcoin space. Anything interesting you can share with us?
God, there have been so many over the course of these 2 years. You're right. I think if I had like a few minutes to prepare for it probably, I could have had a gem somewhere in there. I know that with our team, like the thing that gave me, like the moment that gave me some of the most excitement that we had in the course of the years, which is personal, but also company and blah, 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 was the Toronto Hackathon in 2014, April of 2014. Our company had just launched our mobile app. At the time, it was just the directory, and we were still working on the wallet. And we had been working closely with Amir Taki on the LibBitcoin project, which is the library that we use inside of our wallet. And, we'd just kind of bumped into him in Toronto. He said he was going to be there, and we were going to meet with him to discuss some kind of library integration stuff. And then he suddenly goes, "Hey, want to join me? I'm on a hackathon," And, this was actually to one of my co-founders, William. And he's like, "Oh, what are you building?" And he told him, dark market. And he's like, "Oh, that sounds pretty fascinating. Sure, let's join in." And I had heard about this a little bit on the late side. And as soon as I heard what they were building, I said, "This is going to win the hackathon. This has got to do
wow.
it." And I rushed over for the announcement and the demos, and I saw our team, kind of presenting the project. I saw Amir presenting it, and I had this inside just incredible just pride and oh my God, this is going to be really, really awesome. And lo and behold, they did win. Dark Market won the hackathon. It created a whole lot of buzz. It was the first time that we got written up in Wired magazine and a lot of kind of bigger name magazines. And after months of just kind of pretty hard, grueling, long hours and nights and work, to finish off with another long, grueling hour and night of work, but put that huge smile on their face. We went home just a rejuvenated and, kind of proud team for what had been built. And what's even more, what all brings it together that is also so exciting is that it got picked up and turned into a real live project that is shipping today, with Open Bazaar. Yeah. And so that culmination, it's not one event, I guess. It's a culmination of a couple events. To me was, some of the more, kind of the emotional high roller coaster of this space and see it kind of come together. And so, that's the thing that stands out with the short, with the short notice of what the question is. Yeah. That whole experience is what stands out to me, and it still resonates in my head, and I remember those moments clearly. Okay.
Yeah, that's great. I'm a fan of Amir Taki. He's got kind of a blunt, raw philosophy, an honest philosophy, I think. And, but he also has the smarts and the commitment and the wherewithal to work hard on projects like that and get stuff done and do interesting and helpful stuff. So that's great.
Exactly. Yep. I wish him the best.
Definitely. So my last one, we touched on it a little, but I'll say one more time. Where can people reach you? A website, Twitter, email, anything you want to share? What should people be doing right now when they finish the show?
Got it. So reach out to us. We're at airbitz.co, airbitz.co. If you want to chat with us, we're on telegram.airbitz.co. We have a Slack channel at slack.airbitz.co. You can reach me, Paul, my Twitter handle, Paulinator with 2 L's. And we're also on Twitter at Airbitz. It's pretty darn easy to find us. You type that in, not too many other companies will show up other than us. Okay. And so we look forward to chatting with people, happy to answer questions and connect with the community. So come reach out. In addition, I do have a travel schedule. I'm actually leaving today to go to Buenos Aires for the Latin American Bitcoin Conference. I'm not sure when you're listening to the show. Today's November 2nd. So if you're around in the next few days in Buenos Aires, come say hi. As well, I'm heading to Blockchain Money in London, on, I believe that's the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th of November. So that's later this week. So, those are other places to reach us kind of in person, face to face. And we'll have some presence we'll actually be at the Zurich Bitcoin meetup on the end of November, I believe the 28th of November, right after Thanksgiving weekend. I'll be there speaking about kind of Airbitz and security and blockchain security and whatnot. So a few places to kind of see us in person if you happen to be around.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's where I first met Paul, was at the North Carolina Bitcoin Conference. Yeah. And if anyone's out in Buenos Aires or London, was it?
London and Zurich, end of the month.
Okay, cool. Yeah, go say hi. Awesome. Yep. Well, hey, Paul, thanks a lot for being here. It's been great having you, catching up after a couple years. Wow, I can't believe we've even. It's great to have you. I can't believe we've even been doing the show for that long. So
I know. Congrats. 140 episodes. Awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats for sticking with it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here, and we will catch you some other time, hopefully.
Yep. Yeah. Hope you're on the show sooner than 2 years from now.
Yep. Sounds good.
YMB and BTC is your Bitcoin and Liberty podcast.
Cryptocurrency decrypted.
We're sitting down with Mr. Jason King. If you want to with the government, feed homeless people, man.
Jeffrey Tucker.
What's possible in the Bitcoin space? It sounds a little like science fiction, but if you wait enough time, it becomes a reality.
Angela Keaton from antiwar.com.
This is what the United States does. It involves killer robots. For Bitcoiners, this is a way to get around that.
Subscribe at YMB and BTC.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm bringing you back to the podcast. I know you guys were getting a little bit tired there. I'm begging you guys to please hang on. I'm here now. I'm Tim Baker, and I'm here to finish out the last half of this podcast with you guys, help you deal a little bit better with whatever you had to deal with before. I think it was some kind of an interview, so Daniel was probably asking his set of strange, weird questions. He doesn't do too well whenever he has to actually interact with people. But
Dude,
I am here with him today.
Huh? Yeah, I'm Daniel Brown. I didn't introduce myself in the first half, actually, so that's me. Thanks for being here.
I'm that dude you've been listening to talk.
But what are you talking about? Do I really ask dumb questions?
No, you just say strange things to people whenever you shouldn't. And well, no, yeah. Also, it's the questions you ask people sometimes. Also.
Well, screw you, because there's no such thing as a dumb question, so I don't want to hear it.
There's definitely dumb questions, Daniel. Don't pull that bullshit right now.
Oh my gosh.
Cool. Anyway, speaking of dumb questions, some guy's trying to get he's trying to talk to the powers that be into letting Bitcoin be a little bit more free in the great, wonderful land of the USSA that we live in today, especially. Speaking of where this guy's coming from. So we're going to talk to him a little bit, or not talk to him, I'm sorry. This podcast just seemed a lot more legit. Like, we got this guy on. It's cool. No, we're going to talk about him because that's what simple-minded people do. We talk about other people and their accomplishments. But if Daniel doesn't have anything else to say and complain about how I'm doing, I'm going to continue with this.
I complain enough about you, okay. Tim. Just keep going. Tell us what happened.
He is right. So,
they all know, Tim. They've been listening to the show forever, so it's almost 3 years actually. But yeah,
really?
Let's go.
This has been with me for 3 years of my life. Some of the strangest parts of my life, though. Anyway, this story is it's defining, I guess, for what's going to go on other places, but it's definitely in a place where it doesn't look good for Bitcoin because it's in New York, and this has to do with the New York bit license that came out. I feel like it's come out a couple times in the past.
Oh, geez. Yeah, we've when it first was coming out, we talked about it a ton. And, I mean, mostly just beating it down like this is a joke. And then, like, a few weeks later, there would be like, oh, the public is allowed to comment on what they think about the first draft. And there were a ton of comments, and then they're like, oh, they're releasing the second draft. And now it's going in, and it might become law. Like, all that stuff happened, and we talked about it the whole time and how much of a joke it was. But it did get passed. It did go through. It's a real thing. And people were leaving New York because of it. Bitcoin companies were. But apparently some guy's still fighting it. That's really the story here. It's a CoinDesk article. Bit license critic wages one-man war. I mean, he kind of is the only one, supposedly. So keep going, Tim. What is it?
Yeah,
I mean, what's he up to?
He's the single man standing against tyranny from the New York State Department of Financial Services and NYDFS, which at this point just gets, I don't understand.
New York Department of Financial Services. NIDFS.
Because we need to make this more confusing than anything. Now, the New York license, they put it out there. Now, it does say in here, last June, the measure was finalized into law, rendering whatever concerns people had over it moot. Because there was a lot of controversy over the New York bit license whenever it first came out, and it's been with there since, like us talking about it. Anyway, the article's about Theo Chino, and he's been working at suing the New York State Department of Financial Services over this bit license and saying that basically just that the requirements in it are so stringent that they pretty much kill any Bitcoin business, which is what we said, and it kind of does. Especially any kind of a small one that you're just tacking on like millions in startup money that you need.
I don't know I forget the exact numbers, but it's thousands of dollars just to apply for a license. So even to remotely deal with Bitcoin, you got to crank up a couple $1,000s, maybe even in the tens of thousands, just to apply for this license. So yeah, huge barrier to entry.
We need that money.
Well, you know what we got to do, Tim? We got to make it so there's like a $50,000 fee to apply for a podcasting license. I mean, we'll be all set because we're already going, and then we'll just keep out the competition. Yeah.
No, but that's actually not that bad of a comparison for how most of the things try to do it. Although normally,
you don't want rogue podcasters going around like making dumb shows.
You know how dangerous that could be? I mean, honestly, we did it, but we're principled whenever it was like we're trying to save the industry because we just let it happen. Then no one's going to want any kind of podcast. They're not going to trust anybody. Yeah,
I mean, we're totally trustworthy here.
And that's why we joined with the federal government. But he's saying that he's also saying that besides it just kind of crushing any kind of Bitcoin company from starting, also then that all of these laws are more stringent and more they're slanted against Bitcoin and the users. Like the the word they use is good. It's stringent constraints and requirements.
Well, yeah, but they compare it to traditional banks, and they say that these regulations are even more stringent than the regular banks get.
Yeah, and that again would be part of why it'd be even harder to make. Like, it's hard enough for you to do it with a traditional financial thing or financial organization, but then you're going to tack on even more because you're trying to do it with Bitcoin, which kind of just, it looks like you're going after that currency specifically. And he says that Chino, like he thinks that he has a case because he thinks that the ruling has been done not just as just a ruling of law as the New York company, or as the New York State Department of Financial Services says that it's to protect consumers from fraud and loss. He's saying, no, this is because you don't like Bitcoin, and that's why I have a case to sue against you, because it's, I don't know if you can't say it's like some kind of slander, I guess, but he says that they do it in a capricious, like just very, very attacking Bitcoin.
I mean, yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I don't know if they're intentionally saying like, oh, we have to destroy Bitcoin. They probably have good intentions somewhere in their head. But the ultimate goal is just, we can't really have anyone using Bitcoin because to them, Bitcoin itself is dangerous to the consumers. So if they are trying to protect the consumers, then for all practical purposes, they pretty much have to make it unusable except by extremely special and wealthy people.
Yeah. I mean, Bitcoin is terrible for it's bad for like private fraud because you can't like reverse something, but I mean it's good for overall fraud because you get to see what happens with everything, but it's just you get to see that you got conned into sending someone $500. You can still see that it's there. You can't ever take it back. So the state has no, like they have you're right. The state has no use for it because at best, you just need to make sure these companies are doing it correctly, and privately, they don't really want it, so they don't want to encourage it, so you're going to put like heavy laws on it, heavy requirements, so that it deters the average person from using Bitcoin versus the traditional banking system or anything like that.
Right. I totally agree. That's this guy, a little history on him, I guess, is before the Bit license, he was starting 2 different Bitcoin-related companies. One of them was like selling phone minutes to bodegas, not bodegas, bodegas.
It's like, I know everybody has a problem with that. I just want to get that out of the
way. He was selling them phone minutes and allowing the provided Bitcoin processing service directly to the shops. And then the other company provided technical services to the first company by processing the Bitcoin transactions. So he was doing some pretty cool stuff. I mean, he was just giving these shops the ability to buy and sell some things with Bitcoin. I mean, that's pretty convenient for the average dude who's, walking around New York or whatever, who just wants to be, oh, yeah, I need some phone minutes. Let me pay with Bitcoin. I mean, it's nothing crazy, but it's a decent business. Why not do it? And he's like, well, now I can't. And that's not fair, and I'm going to sue them for it. So, and it also says, I mean, he expected in here that he would have tons of support, that other Bitcoin companies, I don't know who specifically, but maybe the big ones like Coinbase or BitPay, he expected them to be right next to him and help him out and make this happen. But apparently, for whatever reason, I guess we could speculate, that he didn't have any support. That's why they say he's the only one. It's a one-man war, whatever. So, I'll do it. I'll go ahead and speculate. I guess the same reason that we were just talking about. BitPay and Coinbase don't really want this guy to step in and process Bitcoin payments. And Bitcoin and Coinbase can afford a bit license. Does that seem possible?
I think, yeah, well, most of the companies are just like, fuck it, we don't need to be here. We'll just go to all the other places that aren't as bad.
Yeah, some places did do that. Right, you're exactly right. Some companies just said, well, then we won't serve New York customers. End of story. A lot of companies did that. So, exactly. It's to them, it's just not worth fighting. Which actually, if that's the case, I would almost agree. Like, it's a noble cause, but I don't really expect this guy to get anywhere. I don't really expect him to be like, oh, yeah, you're right. We should get rid of the bit license. Why? What were we thinking? Why did we make that? No, that's not going to happen. So yeah, in that sense, I actually wouldn't spend any resources really supporting him either. Sorry, Chino, but I don't think it's going to get anywhere.
I would say, I think I'd agree with you with that, about like it's just not going to be that effective, and also just like if they're going to be like this, it doesn't matter. Let's just go to a different part of the country. What I'd be more interested in and more supportive of this whole thing is that he's talking to this guy's lawyer or someone who has he specializes in Article 78 cases. This guy's name is Cyric.
Yeah.
He says that Chino still represents him. I don't know if he's giving him advice, stuff like that. Anyway, Cyric says that quote, Chino hopes to accomplish with his lawsuit is to force a conversation between state-level lawmakers that never happened because of Lawsky's successful attempts, to shut it down real quick and to get it. There wasn't too much official backlash for this. It was just people like you and me complaining. They didn't have to change it. So I do understand that, I understand Chino's just doing this for the sake of trying to get that conversation started again. I don't think he's going to win. I think maybe it might help with that, with loosening it up for the future.
Yeah, which I respect that. I mean, that's fine. If you have the resources, and he said he did a lot of the research himself and represented himself for part of the case. And I mean, I respect that. If you know that you might not win, but you're just doing it to strike up a conversation and to get people thinking, nothing wrong with that at all. It's kind of like, I won't go into all the details because we say this a lot, but one of our opinions on privacy that we talk about on the show sometimes as well, if it's easy, go be as private as you can. If you can just tap a button and install encrypted messaging app, then sure, do it. And it's kind of the same thing here. Well, yeah, in a certain sense, you're probably not going to win. You'll spend money and research and time, and you probably aren't going to get the bit license repealed on your own. Maybe, but still, I mean, if you enjoy it, if you have the resources, and if you just want to strike up a conversation, absolutely nothing wrong with that. Go for it, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you have the resources to do it, go ahead and fuck with them. because like this isn't something that they're going to come like shoot you for probably, because it's just it's just a business thing. Like they don't normally fuck with people as much for that. So it's I'd say safer than going after them for like oil stuff or something like that, where they're going to knock on your door and you can get shot behind the head by a dude already in your house.
Wait, oil?
Like if you
what
fuck
the
with,
hell?
No, I'm just talking about like fucking with. If you're gonna fuck with a branch of the government, of the local government, do it with the financial one, just because they don't normally go out and kill people. That's all I'm saying.
I guess I would say the riskier part. It doesn't really have to do with what branch of government. The riskier thing is just flat out disobeying them. If he was operating his business anyway, then he should be worried. But because he's going through the legal system and he's legitimately, in a sense, trying to sue them, I mean, yeah, then they'll argue with him. They'll try to win the case. But yeah, I don't think they're going to come after you for just suing them. All they have to do is say, nope, you lose the case. So if he was actually at risk, I think it would only be if he was doing illicit stuff. Maybe he is. I don't know.
I mean, they can just make up stuff too.
True. Yeah, I guess that's true. I'm sure they're not above making up stuff or finding stuff that they normally wouldn't have found in an effort to make him look bad and hurt him as much as they can so that they win this case. Yeah, it's possible, but anyway, I don't know. There's probably not a ton more to say here. It's just an interesting case, and I think we covered it. Anything to add, Tim?
No,
you can say
really.
No.
I'm thinking, Daniel. I'm trying to delve this deep parts of my mind for any kind of issues I've thought of in the day.
I guess the only other thing that I'll briefly mention is not a similar story, but it was also about the bit license that I saw floating around Twitter the other day. And essentially, Benjamin Losky, the guy behind getting the bit license created, the evil mastermind, he actually resigned shortly after it was passed. And there was an article about there's kind of not much really happening anymore. Like all these people applied and nobody's really going through the applications and everything just kind of stalled in New York. So I thought that was kind of funny. I figure I'd just mention it, But yeah, I guess that's all I got, and I guess that means we do some quick advice of the week. You got anything good for us, Tim?
I don't know. Buy Bitcoin. It's going up, fuckers.
Oh, good call. Good call. Unrelated,
yeah,
mostly.
There's my advice. Buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, I have nothing against that advice. Buy it while it's expensive, so then it'll crash and you'll lose money. No, it really seriously is going up quite a bit. I've been buying it just as regularly as ever. I actually got, for the first time a few days ago, I finally got it set up so that a portion of my paycheck goes directly into Bitcoin through Bitwage, which the Bitwage, I don't know much of their history. I don't know any of the people there, so I'm not trying to say too much good or too much bad about them just because I don't know. I will say, in my brief experience, it was really a really confusing interface, and it took me a while to figure out how to set it up. But now that it is set up, I think I'm set. I mean, I think it'll just happen regularly every 2 weeks or whatever, and I think it'll be fine. So I'm happy with that. The exchange rate is a little high, which means like there are no official fees, but they give you their own exchange rate. So they're not really giving me as much Bitcoin as the money is worth. So that's a little tough, but you know, it's convenient and easy. So that's my strategy, is a little bit every 2 weeks is going straight into Bitcoin, and I really do expect it to chug along for a while. We'll see if we crack some new records. That'd be cool. But yeah, good advice. Mine, I'm gonna back up to the first half and just remind you to check out Airbitz. Check out the Wefunder. The platform itself, the funding platform, is cool enough that they allow anyone to invest. Even I think the minimum is like $100, And it's venture capital. It's this big fancy stuff that people do throw around millions of dollars for, and you can do it with $100. I don't know if venture capital is the exact right term, but it's something like that. Angel investing. Be someone's angel investor. Yeah, so I think that's pretty cool. I think they have some cool plans and a great vision. So check out Airbitz and their Wefunder. I think you'll like it, but if you don't, you don't. I don't care. It's not going to affect me. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks for being here. Glad to have you with us for another Thursday, approaching year number 3. We will see you next week for episode 148. I guess if this was 147, did I do my math right there, Tim?
Yeah, I think you're good.
All right, well, John was absent yet again this week, but his music is playing as we speak. That rhymed. That was pretty good. All right, guys, so enjoy that, and we'll see you in a week. Peace out.
Bye-bye, everybody.